Good morning, children.
Good morning.
Morning.
We have completed a menstrual cycle in the previous class. Now we are going to learn about fertilization and implantation. And you already learned that menstruation happens if egg is not fertilized. If the egg release is not fertilized, it can lead to menstruation. And in case fertilization happens, that can lead to pregnancy. And so long as the pregnancy is there or during the pregnancy period, a menstrual cycle will stop temporarily. Okay, so let's learn about fertilization and implantation. During copulation, copulation means the process of mating, semen is released by the penis into the vagina, and this process is known as insemination. So insemination is a process by which during a sexual intercourse, semen containing the sperms is released into the vagina by the penis, and this may or may not lead to fertilization. Fusion of sperm with ovum is called fertilization. That you know, to form a zygote. A sperm fuses with ovum, resulting in the formation of a zygote, that is known as fertilization. And it occurs in the ampullary region of fallopian tube. Okay. Earlier in the textbook, I think it was mentioned ampullary isthmic region, and in the new edition textbooks, they have changed it to ampullary region. So you know that fertilization takes place in the fallopian tube, and to be specific, exact location is ampulla. It is in the ampulla that the fertilization, fusion of sperm with the egg is taking place. Fertilization happens only if ovum and sperms are transported simultaneously. So all mating, all copulations will not lead to pregnancy, because only if eggs and sperms are released at the same time or simultaneously only, it can lead to fertilization. That is why it is said that all copulations will not lead to pregnancy. So depends on the cycle, the phase of your menstrual cycle, if it is on the ovulation day or closer to the ovulation day. I told we cannot say that it is on the 14th day for everyone. So for a normal healthy female, it will be on the 14th day who is having regular cycles, but otherwise slight fluctuations can be there. And the egg after ovulation, it will remain for almost 24 hours. And within that time, copulation or the meeting with the sperm should happen. Only then it can lead to fertilization. So I'll repeat once again. During copulation, semen is released. Semen which contains, seminal plasma plus sperms is known as semen, and semen will be released by the penis into the female reproductive tract, that is vagina, and you call the process as fertilization. And as I already told you, it takes place in the ampullary region. It takes place in the ampullary region of fallopian tube. So here you can see ampulla, and the enlarged view of ampulla you can see here. Infundibulum is here, the finger shaped projections of fimbriae, then the green colored part, this is ampulla, and the yellow colored portion is isthmus. So it is taking place in the ampulla. And in the next flow chart you can see the transport of sperms and transport of sperms to reach the ovum. And I told you all copulations cannot lead to fertilization and pregnancy, because when the sperms are entering the female reproductive tract, there should be a ovum in the fallopian tube. Only then fertilization can take place. Sperms enter through the vagina, pass through the cervical canal, through the uterus, enters the isthmus, and finally in the ampulla, where the egg is present. And the egg, once it is released from ovary collected by fimbriae, and it passes through the infundibulum, it reaches ampulla, and there the fusion of male and female gametes take place, resulting in fertilization. And if fertilization is successful, it can lead to pregnancy. Once a sperm comes in contact with the egg, some changes are taking place. You know that even though a female is releasing just one egg, normal condition, normal cases, just one, there can be exceptional cases. You have heard about so many children born in a single delivery. So that I'm not saying about identical twins, non-identical twins. In case of non-identical twins, there can be release of more than one egg. Then only it can lead to non-identical twins. Hope you know the difference between identical and non-identical twins. In identical twins, single ovum, single sperm. They fuse, forms the zygote. And this zygote, as it is undergoing division, it gets completely divided into two. And then they start to develop individually, separately. So that is why those children who are born from the same zygote, you call as identical twins, since they are from the same formed by the fusion of the same egg and ovum, they'll be having the same characters. They resemble. Maybe there can be slight differences, but they'll be exactly identical in appearance. And that is because they are formed from the same zygote. But sometimes more than one egg can be released. When more than one egg is released, more sperms will get a chance. Only one sperm will be permitted to fuse with one egg. But if more ova are released, then more sperms will get a chance, and that can lead to non-identical twins. And you might have heard about Siamese twins also. Siamese twins, they are formed from the same zygote. But I told that in identical twins, once the zygote is undergoing division, they get completely divided. The zygote will get completely divided into two. But in the case of Siamese twins, they don't get completely divided. They get joined. Some parts will get separated, some parts will join together. Maybe it can be in the stomach region or the head portion, anywhere, depending upon where they are joined together. Accordingly, the complications also can increase. So under normal conditions, one egg is released and only one sperm will get a chance to fuse. And I told you that the semen will contain millions of sperms. And these millions of sperms will be reaching the fallopian tube, but only one will be permitted to fuse. The others will be rejected. So once a sperm comes in contact with zona pellucida. What is zona pellucida? We already learned about zona pellucida in the last class. What is it? Hmm? Where do you find it?
Outer layer of secondary oocyte.
Secondary oocyte, they forms a membranous layer, a membrane covering. You call it a zona pellucida, or covering the egg, you can find zona pellucida. So as you can see in the picture, once that peach colored border, what you see, zona pellucida. Zona pellucida. And once the sperm uh, comes in contact with the egg, it has to interact with zona pellucida, and this brings about changes in the membrane. So once a sperm comes in contact with zona pellucida, some changes will be brought about in the membrane, which will block the entry of additional sperms. Only one sperm will be permitted to enter. All the others will be rejected. The secretions of acrosome that we already mentioned, on the anterior side of the haploid nucleus present in sperms, there is a cap-shaped part. You call it as acrosome. It's filled with powerful enzymes which will help the sperm to enter into the egg cytoplasm through zona pellucida and plasma membrane. So egg is having some layers covering it. So it has to penetrate through these membranes and reach the egg nucleus. Sperm nucleus will get fused with the egg nucleus. For that, it has to make its way into the ovum, the nucleus of the ovum. So for that, these enzymes will help. The secretions of the acrosome, which contains enzymes, will help the sperm to enter into the egg cytoplasm, piercing or penetrating the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. And once this happens, this will initiate the second meiotic division of secondary oocyte to form an ovum and a second polar body. Hope you are remembering the different steps in oogenesis. So when we learned about oogenesis, I told you that the secondary oocyte is formed by, how is secondary oocyte and a polar body formed? Hmm? Tell me. Once the tertiary follicle changes into, hello, one of you say you are remembering
Meiosis.
oogenesis. So oogenesis, different stages. I hope you are remembering. Primary oocyte, primary follicle, secondary follicle, then what happens? Tertiary follicle, and inside the uh, inside the tertiary follicle, the primary oocyte will, so once the tertiary follicle stage is reached, the primary oocyte present within will undergo the first unequal meiotic division and forms a tiny polar body and secondary oocyte. Okay, that we had learned. And the tertiary follicle after that will change into Graafian follicle with the secondary oocyte and polar body inside. Polar body may degenerate, and with the secondary oocyte inside, it will change into tertiary follicle, will change into Graafian follicle, and then by the rupture of the Graafian follicle, secondary oocyte or ovum will be released, and it will complete its second meiotic division only after the entry of the sperm. Once the sperm enters, this will initiate the second meiotic division. So what happens is the secondary oocyte that will form oocyte. For secondary oocyte also, we in your textbook it is mentioned as ovum. So both are same. It completes the second meiotic division, and it will form an ovum. We can even call it a zooted and a second polar body. Polar bodies will disappear, whereas the secondary oocyte will change into ovum. And then what happens? The haploid nucleus of sperm and that of ovum will fuse together, resulting in the formation of a diploid zygote. And it is from this diploid zygote that the baby is getting developed. I'll repeat all the points once again. We started with insemination. When copulation, during copulation or during the sexual intercourse, semen will be released into the vagina by the penis, and semen includes seminal plasma and sperms. Millions of sperms will be released into the vagina, but only one sperm will get an entry to a single ovum. Fusion of the sperm and the ovum, resulting in the formation of a zygote, is known as fertilization. And the site of fertilization is ampulla. And the egg remains, after ovulation, egg remains alive for almost 24 hours. Any doubt, children? We'll have a quick recap. And I told you eggs and sperms should be released simultaneously. Only then fertilization can take place. So if the egg is not present, if ovum is not there, is not released into the ampullary region, it is already after 24 hours of ovulation. If it has got destroyed, at that time, if the sperms are reaching, it cannot lead to fertilization. So only when the ovum and sperms are transported simultaneously, it can lead to fertilization. And once a sperm comes in contact with the egg, The zona pellucida of the membrane brings about some changes. That is a membrane covering. Apart from plasma membrane, it's a membrane covering of ovum. So when sperm comes in contact, zona pellucida undergoes some changes, and these changes are necessary to prevent the entry of additional sperms. And the sperms are provided with acrosome, which is filled with enzymes. With the help of these enzymes, sperms will make its way through the sperms will make it way through the zona pellucida and plasma membrane and reach the egg cytoplasm. And once this happens, this will initiate the second meiotic division. The secondary oocyte or this ovum will undergo second meiotic division, resulting in the formation of oocyte and second polar body. And that happens only after fertilization. To be noted, the second meiotic division of secondary oocyte is taking place only after the sperm has entered the ovum. The haploid nuclei of sperm and ovum fuse together and form diploid zygote. You know that zygote will have a diploid number of chromosomes, 46 chromosomes, whereas sperm and ovum will be having 23 each. Now here you can see the different stages of zygote. One zygote, zygote is a single cell structure. The nuclei also will fuse and it forms a single nucleus. And once zygote is formed, it will repeatedly undergo changes, divisions or cleavage, or it keeps on dividing 2 cell, 4 cell, 8 cell, 16, then 32, like that. It keeps on taking place. So here you can see. Can you see? Is it moving? Is it like a video you're seeing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So you can see that once the zygote has formed, divides into 2, into 4, then 8, 16, and finally it becomes a mass of cells. Okay. Zygote undergoes mitotic division or cleavage. These, it is not meiotic division, mitotic divisions. And as it moves through the isthmus towards the uterus, and you know that um, egg is non-motile, but it is capable of, or it can be transported from the fimbriae there to the ampulla where infundibulum, and from there to the ampulla where fertilization takes place, and then from there isthmus, uterus. So this movement is facilitated by the presence of ciliated epithelium present in the fallopian tube. The inner lining of the fallopian tube is provided with cilia. These cilia will beat and will help in the movement of ovum. Other than that, ovum is a non-motile structure. It undergoes mitotic divisions as it is moving through the isthmus towards the uterus and forms 2, 4, 8, 16. And these daughter cells formed you call as blastomeres. First it divides into 2 blastomeres, then 4, 8. It keeps on getting divided at an exponential rate. Once it forms 8 to 16 blastomeres, the embryo is known as morula. Morula is the embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres. When the zygote undergoes divisions and form 16 blastomeres, 8 to 16 blastomeres, you call that stage is morula. And morula further divides and it transforms into blastocyst. In mammals, blastocyst and blastula is same, more or less the same. So after morula zygote, it undergoes division and forms blastomeres. When it reaches 8 to 16 blastomeres, the embryo is known as morula. Morula will further divide and transforms into blastocyst. And in blastocyst, blastomeres, see, for your practicals, you have to identify mammalian blastula, make a neat label diagram, and you should know all the details. In blastocyst, the blastomeres will be arranged into an outer layer. You call this outer layer as trophoblast. This year also, for the practical viva, these questions were asked. Trophoblast and an inner cell mass attached to the trophoblast. I'll repeat once again. You know that zygote is formed by the fusion of egg and sperm. And once zygote is formed, zygote is a single cell structure. It undergoes repeated mitotic divisions or cleavages and results in the formation of blastomeres. And when it reaches, or the embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres, you call as morula. And the division doesn't stop there, it continues, and this morula transforms into blastocyst. And in blastocyst, if you see the structural details, you can find the blastomeres will form an outermost layer. You call it a trophoblast. And you can see a cavity also inside. And there'll be a mass of cells which is attached to the trophoblast. Inner cell mass, you call it as inner cell mass, which is attached to trophoblast. I'll show you the figure. The trophoblast gives nourishment to the inner cell mass. Also, it gets attached to endometrium. So, trophoblast serves some important functions. One is that, inner cell mass is attached to this trophoblast, the outer layer of blastomeres. They provide nourishment to the inner cell mass. Apart from that, it helps in attaching to the endometrium. You know that the embryo, once it reaches the uterus, it has to get implanted to the endometrial lining, to the inner lining of the uterus, it has to get attached. So in order to attach or to get attached to the endometrium, this particular layer will help. So here also you can see a zygote, then dividing and forming 8 cell stage, then forms blastula, and cross section of blastula is shown. There is a cavity inside which you call as blastocele. Okay, in your textbook also a figure is given. Outermost layer of blastomeres, you call it as trophoblast. Then there is an inner cell mass, which is attached to trophoblast. And once, and I told you, with the help of this trophoblast, it will get attached to the endometrial lining. And once it has got attached, the uterine cells, they'll keep on dividing repeatedly and fastly, and they will cover the blastocyst. Thus, the blastocyst will get embedded in the endometrium, and you call this step as implantation. So, starting from insemination, fertilization, implantation. Once the embryo has got attached with the help of trophoblast to the uterine layer, the cells of the uterus, the lining of the uterus will divide rapidly. What for? It has to cover the blastocyst so that it is getting implanted on it properly. So once the blastocyst, or once this particular stage gets implanted, or once it gets attached to the uterine wall, the cells of the uterus will divide rapidly and they will cover the blastocyst, and it gets properly embedded in the innermost layer, that is endometrium. And you call this process as implantation. Okay. And the inner cell, once it has got implanted, the inner cell mass will get differentiated into different germ layers. You know that we are triploblastic animals. You have learned it in class 9. Last year also you learned what is the difference between diploblastic, triploblastic. We are triploblastic because we have 3 germ layers, embryonic germ layers, from where the different parts of our body are formed. So from the inner cell mass, 3 germ layers will be formed: outer ectoderm, middle mesoderm, and inner endoderm. And when the embryo reaches this stage, you call it as gastrula. So we learned about blastomeres, and the embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres is morula, and morula will further develop and form blastocyst. And blastocyst has got an outer layer of cells known as trophoblast and an inner cell mass attached to it. There is a cavity, there is a space inside also, which you call as blastocele. And in mammals, both blastocyst and blastula more or less the same. And then at this stage, it will get attached to the uterine wall. And once it has got attached to the uterine wall, the cells present in the uterine layer will divide rapidly and they will enclose the blastocyst and it gets properly implanted. And after this, the inner cell mass will undergo division and they form three germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. And at this stage, you call the embryo as gastrula. The germ layers will give rise to the different tissues or organs in our body. The stem cells, have you heard about stem cells, children? The stem cells which are present in the inner cell mass, they have the potency to give rise to all the other tissues and organs. So inner cell mass is provided with some stem cells. We call it as stem cells, and these stem cells is capable of producing all the other tissues and organs in our body. And stem cell therapy, already scientists have started. I don't know how far it has become successful. It is just in the beginning stage, because at the time of birth, when we are born, at that time the blood collected, see, when the umbilical cord is cut and the baby is separated from the mother, the blood collected from there, if it is it contains stem cells. So the stem cells collected, if you can preserve it, later when that child faces some health issues, some major problems, these stem cells will help a lot to cure it. Maybe some damage or some particular organ or whatever it is. So these stem cells, if it is preserved, so this can be of great use in curing many diseases in future. But it is just in the not fully developed, and maybe in the near future it will be properly developed and it will be highly useful for all human beings. And already those who are born, no way, but for the new generation. Okay, after attachment, the uterine cells divide rapidly and cover the blastocyst, and the blastocyst becomes embedded in the endometrium, and you call it as implantation. And once implantation has taken place, the inner cell mass will get differentiated into three germ layers, and at this stage you call it as gastrula. What is the significance of gastrula? From this three-layered structure, all the other tissues and organs will be formed, and the inner cell mass is provided with stem cells, which is having the potency to give rise to all the other tissues and organs. So here again, you can see the different stages, starting from the release of secondary oocyte, ovary, corpus luteum, ovulation taking place, secondary oocyte is released, fertilization happening, fusion of egg nucleus and sperm nucleus, forms zygote. It divides into two, divides into four, then forms 8 cells, and 8 to 16 stage, you call it as morula. Then it transforms into blastocyst, and the blastocyst will get implanted and leads to, it leads to further changes. Okay. Any doubt? Any doubt, children?
Ma'am, in one of the slides, blastula was written. What is
Can
that?
you speak a little louder, Nandana?
In one of the slides, blastula was written. What is that?
Can you message me? Because I'm not able to hear since your voice is being heard from the piece, from the board, not clear. Okay, then quickly summarize all the points that we discussed now, starting from insemination. Sania, carry on.
So it begins from seven.
You have purposely made an understanding with the dog. Huh? Whenever I get a question, you should bark. Nothing like that, no? Sanya? Okay, then continue.
So it begins with the phonesis when semen it begins with the coitus when semen from the penis is released into vagina.
That is known as
Coitus.
insemination. During coitus, it happens. The process is insemination. Malavika, next.
Is called fertilization.
You should
And
speak a little louder. I told there is some problem with the audio.
Fusion of sperm with ovum is called fertilization.
Okay,
and
okay.
It occurs,
Nandana,
It occurs in the ampullary region. It occurs in the ampullary region.
okay, okay. It occurs in the ampulla. Then, Steffi,
Fertilization occurs only if the sperm and ovum are released simultaneously.
yes. Next point, Michael.
The sperm comes in
Sperm
contact
will.
with the zona pellucidae.
Okay. Then, Nevin.
It causes changes in the membrane that block the entry of the additional sperms.
I didn't hear. Others heard what Nevin said?
It causes changes in the membrane that block the entry of additional sperms.
Nevin, sorry, Nevin. I'm not able to hear. Punya.
After entry of one sperm, it blocks the entry of other sperms.
Okay. How? By bringing about some changes in the membrane. So the membrane undergoes some changes so that additional entry of additional sperms is prevented. Yes, Gayatri.
The acrosome helps the sperm to get inside the cytoplasm of the ovum through the
Partially I'm hearing. Okay. Some of your voices are clear, but I don't know. Yes, once again.
the acrosomes helps the sperm to enter the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the membrane, plasma membrane.
Anna,
This causes second
what happened yesterday, Anna?
I was in the school. I went to school yesterday for
I went
measurement.
to?
School for measurements.
Okay. Say?
This causes second meiotic division. And the oocyte to form ovum and the second polar body.
What is the other name for that? Ovum, oocyte. Okay. Next, Naureen.
The haploid nuclei of the sperm and the egg fuse together to form a diploid zygote.
Okay. Nia. Nia.
Zygote undergoes mitotic division as it moves through the isthmus towards uterus and forms 2, 4, 8, 16 daughter cells.
Rijas, what do you call the embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres?
Morula.
Then continue. Donna.
Blastomeres are arranged into trophoblasts.
Speak a little.
Morula continues to divide.
It forms blasto. Donna.
Yes, ma'am.
It forms morula changes into
Blastocyst.
blastocyst. Then Punya again. Oh, Lydia, wait. Lydia.
Trophoblast layer give nourishment.
What happened to your video?
And poor network connection.
Nia. Oh, you wanted me to call out your name. I didn't realize that. Okay. Whom did I ask? Lydia?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what are the structural features or what are the different parts of a blastocyst? Vidur?
In blastocyst, blastomeres are arranged into trophoblast.
And attached to that, what can you find?
Inner cell mass attached.
Inner cell mass. What are the functions performed by trophoblast? Malavika?
Give nourishment to the inner cell mass.
And also helps in
Attached to
attachment. And once it is got attached to the uterine wall, what change happens in the cells of uterus? Nandana?
The cells of the uterine wall divide rapidly
And they will?
cover the blastocysts.
And you call the process as?
Implantation.
Implantation. What happens next, Effie?
The inner cell mass gets differentiated
Into?
to 3 germ layers.
And at this stage, you call embryo as?
Gastrula.
Gastrula. Germ layers, G. Gastrula, again G. And what is the significance of these germ layers, Gayatri?
This germ layers give rise to all the tissues, and like the stem cells in them has the potency to give rise to all this.
What are stem cells? Anthony, where do you find it? Stem cells. Stem cells.
Inner cell. Inner cell.
Punya?
The placenta.
Yes?
Placenta.
I'm not able to hear, child. Sorry. Once again, you try, you help me out. Now you might be thinking, she can't hear, she can stop asking questions, no? Punya? Yes. But I told you a specific region. Placenta is not formed now. I told the stem cells present in dash. Yes, inner cell mass. What is its significance? These stem cells can? You may say, no problem. I'll just see whether I can hear it. What is the significance of these stem cells?
If
They have
any organ is damaged, they can recover it.
They have the potency to form what?
All the organs.
All the other tissues and organs in our body. This also we have seen the different stages. Now, pregnancy and embryonic development. So we understood how this fertilization is taking place and how it gets implanted. After implantation, finger-like projections, some finger-like projections will arise. You can see in the figure, chorionic villi. Villi as such, these are finger-shaped projections. Villi you can find on the walls of the small intestine. You have heard about villi. So such finger-shaped projections will develop after implantation. You call it as chorionic villi. And these will appear on the trophoblast, which is surrounded by the uterine tissue and maternal blood. And you already learned that once the blastocyst gets attached to the uterine wall, the uterine cells will divide rapidly and they will enclose or they will cover the blastocyst. So the trophoblast, that is the outermost layer of cells, okay, that is outermost layer of cells in blastocyst. Once implantation is completed, so from the trophoblast, some finger-like projections will appear and you call it as chorionic villi, and these will be surrounded by uterine tissue and maternal blood. The chorionic villi and uterine tissue are interdigitated to form placenta. See, children, interdigitated means, see, what to say, they come in close association, just like the two fingers of your hand when you put together. This is interdigitating. Just if you can see see, they get interdigitated in this way. They come in close association, they get interdigitated and they form Placenta. Placenta is a structural and functional unit between fetus and maternal body. Once again, once implantation has taken place, the next change that is happening is formation of chorionic villi on the trophoblast. And what are these chorionic villi? These are finger-shaped projections, and they get surrounded by the uterine tissue and maternal blood. And the uterine tissue and chorionic villi, they get interdigitated and they form placenta. And in 10th standard, you have learned in detail about the different functions performed by placenta, and it is a structural and functional unit between fetus and mother. So between the mother's body and the fetus, this is a structural and functional unit, helps in the transport of nutrients, gases, waste materials, etc. Placenta is connected to the embryo by an umbilical cord and transports substances to and from the embryo. So umbilical cord, here in the figure also you can see umbilical cord. This is the umbilical cord. That is the way by means of which you're connected to your mother. Okay, this is connected to the placenta with the help of, or the embryo is connected to the placenta with the help of an umbilical cord, and it is through the umbilical cord that the different substances are transported to and from. Waste materials, carbon dioxide, etc. will be transported from the fetal blood to the mother's blood, and the nutrients, oxygen, etc. will be transported to the embryo from the maternal blood. Okay, so once implantation has taken place, chorionic villi develops on trophoblast, and this chorionic villi and uterine tissue will get interdigitated and they'll form placenta. Placenta is a structural and functional unit between the mother and the baby, and placenta is connected to the embryo by means of an umbilical cord, and it is through this that the different substances get transported to and from the embryo. So we'll continue next class. So quickly recap what we learned, the changes taking place after implantation. Vidar?
Finger-like projections called chorionic villi appear on the trophoblast, which is surrounded.
Don't read, Vidar. You recollect, you memorize and say. Once again.
Finger-like projections called chorionic villi will appear on the trophoblast, surrounds the uterine.
And they get surrounded by maternal blood and uterine tissue. What happens next, Rijas?
The chronic villi and uterine tissue are
I
interdigitated
think you have some connectivity
to form
issues.
placenta.
You can say now. Chorionic villi and what gets interdigitated?
Uterine tissue.
Uterine tissue gets interdigitated. These both will get interdigitated and they will form what?
Placenta.
Placenta. And how is placenta attached to the embryo by means of, Steffi?
Umbilical cord.
And what is its significance? What is the significance of umbilical cord?
It helps transport substances to and from the embryo.
Through the umbilical cord that materials get transported to and from the embryo. Okay. So we'll continue next class. If you have any doubts, you can ask anything, any slide to be seen again. Nothing, no? Okay. We'll see you next class. Thank you, children.